Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to knit a hat that lays flat. So most hats that you knit when you're knitting in the round, you're going to be decreasing at even spaces all around the circumference of the hat. And so that's going to create this kind of rounded end to the hat. In this case, I'm going to knit a hat that lays perfectly flat when you take it off your head. So this one is round when you're wearing it. When you take it off, it's flat and it has these nice clean edges. And this is actually nice if you're doing like fair isle knitting or something that's more of like an intricate pattern. You only have to worry about decreasing at the edges. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. One thing I'm not going to be showing you how to do in this video is actually how to knit a hat. So if you've never knit a hat before, this video is not going to help you. Instead, go check out the video I have on how to knit in the round on double pointed needles, because I'll go over all the basic steps of actually like knitting a hat in the round. For this one, I'm just going to go over this guy and mainly how I did the decreasing on the edges to create this kind of flat look for the hat. So I'm just going to give you a quick breakdown of what I've done so far. So I started out with 94 stitches originally, and I built that up to about here. For the brim, I did a 2x2 ribbing, and then I just did normal stockinette stitching up until here. So that was about 30 rows, or about 4 or 5 inches right here. And now I'm starting to do my decreasing right here. So at this point, you would start doing decreasing. I think a lot of hat patterns call for like decreasing every 9 stitches or something like that. But for this one, because we want it to lie flat, we basically have to even out, divide up our stitches amongst the 4 needles that we have on my TPNs, and then we're only going to decrease on the sides here. So in the end, it's basically going to create this nice curved shape, and it's going to be able to lie flat. So the first thing I did when I was ready to start my decreasing was I divided up my stitches amongst the 4 needles here. So I had 94 stitches, so I needed 47 stitches on both sides. So 47 divided amongst these 2 and 47 amongst these 2. So 47, obviously not a fun number to divide. So I just thought in my head, okay, I need at least 23 stitches on each needle, and then kind of just, I think one of them has more than the other. But in the end, you've got 47 on this half, 47 on this half. And that's not really a number you have to keep track of or anything like that, because obviously it decreases as you go along. But you just want to make sure that you have an even amount on either side of the hat. So the start of my round is right here in the middle of the hat, so right here on this needle. I've done a round of plain knitting, and now I'm ready to do another round of decreasing. So let me knit all the way to this side, because this is where we're going to do the first decrease. So I've knit almost to the very end of my first needle, and I'm down to 3 stitches right here. And this is where you're going to do your first decrease. So for this one, we're just going to do a very easy, a normal decrease. So knit 2 together. So to do that, you just grab the 2 stitches, and everything is very tight. I chose a very kind of thick yarn for this, but you just slip your needle through both of them and knit those off. And then for the last stitch on this needle, you just want to knit that off like normal. So it's going to create kind of a nice little border or buffer between your decreases. And you knit it like that. So if you look at it closely, you can kind of see what I've done already. I've got this nice little line right here where the decrease is happening. And so it's bringing over the nice little border that I've got here. So it's very subtle, but it looks really nice. So we want to do the exact same thing on the flip side now, because that's the next needle up in the queue basically. But to do that, we need to do a different type of decrease. So if you flip it over, we're on this side now. And the decrease we want to do here, we want the decrease to be moving to the left. So on this side, it was moving to the right, obviously. So the decrease, you can look at it here again. On this side, the decrease is going to the right. On this side, we want to continue having that nice little curve. So we need to do a decrease that allows us to go to the left. And so for that one, you do what's called the SSK, or the slip slip knit decrease. So if you don't know how to do that, I have another video up actually that kind of goes over SSK in depth. But to do it, you basically slip 2 stitches off and then you knit them together, basically. So I'm going to do it right now. So I'm going to start out my row with knitting 1 stitch again, just like we did on the flip side. And now for my decrease, I'm going to slip 2 stitches off for the SSK. You put them back on the needle like this. The needle goes underneath. And then around the back side, you knit off those 2 stitches. So it's kind of weird. It's a very strange movement to do with your knitting. But what it does is it does a decrease, but it does a decrease in the left direction. So it's pulling the work over to the left instead of to the right, which would be doing if you were just doing knitting 2 stitches together. So that encourages, let me just knit a few more. That encourages the knitting to move to the left. So you can kind of tell right here, I've got this nice little line where the decreases are. So finishing up with that needle, we're now halfway through this round. So we're at the exact midpoint. On the flip side is where we started. So we're at the midpoint of the opposite side of the hat. So we want to do that exact same decrease pattern on this side of the hat now. So I'm going to knit through here and then do knit 2 together. And then on the flip side again, we'll do the SSK. We're at the end of the next needle here now. So just going to knit these 2 together. Hopefully stay on camera for you. Knit them together and then knit the last stitch here for the edge. Pull it all tight. Flip it over. And we'll do the SSK. So knit the first one and then slip off the 2 stitches, slip them back on underneath and knit them off. So that does our SSK. And once we knit to the end of this needle, we'll have finished with this round. So I finished with that needle and I'm back at the midpoint on the front of the hat. And so that completes 1 round of the knitting. So for the next round, you're going to want to knit all the way around, just plain knitting. Don't do another round of decreasing, otherwise it'll get really kind of tight and pinched together and it won't look that good. So I always do a round of decreasing and then a round of plain knitting and then a round of decreasing, then a round of plain knitting. So that builds up this nice decrease on both sides. So on this side of the hat we've got it moving to the right, on this side of the hat we've got it moving to the left, and on the reverse side it's the opposite, obviously. So I'm going to do a couple more rounds of decreasing until I get to the end of the hat, and then I'll show you how to finish it off. Okay, so I've finished knitting my hat pretty much. I'm ready to cast it off and finish it off. So the thing with this one is because we're only decreasing at the sides, I mean, technically you could keep going and you would have like a little elf hat, like a little triangle at the end, but I don't want that for this one. So I've just decreased until it fits my head. I've been able to actually try it on and it fits perfectly. And now I'm just going to end it right here. So it's going to be kind of like a, not really a squared off top, but it's going to be kind of like a hexagonal or pentagon shape on the top. I don't know what I'm saying. But I'm going to show you how to do the cast off once you're finished. So I've got 27 stitches on this half of the hat and 27 stitches on the front half of the hat. And to finish off a hat, you're going to be doing what's called the Kitchener stitch. Kitchener stitch. Say that 10 times fast. What you do, I've actually done this in my sock tutorial. It's the same method, and it's actually the same method of decreasing too for the sock. You just follow this bizarre pattern. There's really no method to it. It's just something you have to remember. So cut off your yarn. I've got about 1.5 feet of yarn just because I'm always paranoid I'm going to run out when I'm finishing a project. So you could probably just use like a couple inches really. Thread your remaining yarn onto a tapestry needle and make sure the yarn is coming from the back of your project. So you've got the front here, the back is here, and the yarn is coming out of the back side. Take the tapestry needle and knit the first stitch off of the work. So just pull it off completely. And then go into the next stitch as if you're going to purl, but leave that stitch on the needle. Don't pull it off. And instead, pull the yarn through and pull it pretty tight. Okay? And then we move on to the back. For the back side, you do the opposite of what we did on the front. So on the back, you pull off the first stitch as if you're going to purl it. Put the tapestry needle through here as if to purl, pull it off, and then go into the next stitch as if you're going to knit it, but keep it on the needle, and then pull your yarn through. And then, once again, pull it tight. Then you move up to the front again, you knit off the first stitch as if you're going to knit it, and then go into the second stitch as if you were going to purl it. And then pull the yarn through and pull it tight. Moving back to the back side, slip off the first stitch as if you're going to purl it, and then go into the next stitch as if you're going to knit it, but don't pull it off. My yarn right now is like totally nasty. It looks like ramen noodles right now because this is actually a recycled project. This is yarn that I took from a scarf. So hopefully yours doesn't look that bad. But you just do this for the whole work. I know I have 4 needles. You can actually move your work onto 2 needles if it's easier for you. Once I'm done with 1 needle, I'm just going to move on to the next needle. Just make sure that you're going carefully and you're not messing up the pattern or anything like that. And even if you do, it's not the end of the world. It'll still look nice. Just make sure you're pulling everything tight so it'll close that up. And it should look pretty seamless at the end when you're finished. When you get down to the end, you can weave off those last 2 stitches, and then you've got just this little tail here. What I do is I turn everything inside out, and I just weave that, the rest of the tail into the work. There's really no right way or wrong way of doing the weaving at the end. You just want to get the tail out of the way and not make it obvious, and then you can trim it after a while. I'll only weave it in a couple of times and then probably cut it right here. So that is how you knit a hat that lays flat. Really the only technique is doing those decreases at the sides. Other than that, the rest of the pattern is up to you, however you want to make your hat. You can do this with Fair Isle knitting if you want to do different colors. You can also continue cables throughout here if you want. It's really up to you. So hopefully this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.